Hello, welcome to Sounding Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of The Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harrison. This is a classic sci-fi from 1961, or at least the copyright's 1961. This edition was published in 1974. This one's from Sphere. I'm assuming there's a bunch of other editions. I love this type of classic sci-fi cover. The spaceships, look at my fingernails, okay? This is not on purpose. My preschooler decided to do my nails when she was homesick earlier today. So yeah, anyway, ignore that. Anyway, the spaceships on these covers, I can't not look at it now, are so interesting and detailed. It takes a lot to make a modern sci-fi spaceship cover look super cool, I find. I've never seen a modern one as impressive as some of these classic sci-fis. Anyway, this is one of my classic sci-fi book reviews, so I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review, and then my beloved classic Sci-Fi Bingo, beloved by one person, that is me. So this book is really fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, it's easy to follow, and the main character is likable, albeit not very deep. So what is it about? Meet Slippery Jim DeGriz, cosmic criminal, the smoothest, sneakiest con man in the known universe. He can take any bank in the galaxy, con a captain out of his ship, start a war or stop one, whatever pays the most. So when the law finally catches up with the stainless steel rat, there is only one thing to do: make him a cop, and turn him loose on a villainous lady who is building herself a battleship. So I've heard a lot about this book from random people saying they really like it. I was obviously, intrigued by the villainous lady. Fun, fast-paced, and readable in a way that early 60s books often aren't, The Stainless Steel Rat is a heist and hijinks novel that is easily accessible and entertaining. If you like classic sci-fi, you will probably enjoy this. My only real gripe with this book, really, is that the story doesn't depend a lot on sci-fi aspects to be a story. The novel could easily be set today. Angelina could easily have been stealing an airplane or a fancy car, and the novel would have been completely unchanged. In this regard, aside from a few spaceships and tech here and there, nothing is really sci-fi-ish. We don't have any aliens, nothing outlandish regarding societal changes, and the technology is very surface value. As such, this is a novel that stays in its lane and doesn't try and say anything. For me, it's a bit too simple, but I will admit I flew through it. It is quite fun. The characters also aren't very deep. We get glimpses that Jim doesn't like his parents, but nothing to explain his personality or background. Yet his personality is very easy to understand and follow. He's like if Han Solo and, James Bond had a baby, but he's not very introspective or contemplative. Does he need to be, though? Because if the book had taken time to delve into his backstory, it would have taken away from the pacing and the story at hand. It might have also made it too serious, which I don't believe was the intent of this novel. What's fun about this novel is watching Jim, an accomplished thief and grifter, get grifted himself. Angelina is one step ahead of him at all times, and part of the fun was watching him and everyone else underestimate her. We don't get a lot on Angelina either, as she's an elusive character for most of the novel, but I will say I did enjoy how she was the villain. The love story was predictable, inevitable, and kind of without merit, but it definitely gave a bit more depth to the motives of old Jimmy. One thing I did like was that when it came to the recruitment of him as a cop, it isn't just, you're on the team now, go. He's expected to undergo, basic training first, which movies and stuff never do. They're just like, you're part of the team. And the person has literally no time to integrate into the expectations of the role, things like that. So I enjoyed this novel a lot. It's a little bit forgettable despite the fantastic title, but it's fun. I think if you like classic sci-fi, you'll enjoy it. It's, again, I love the cover. So, I'm going to go into my classic sci-fi bingo. This is just a way for me to kind of talk about the story in more detail, and it's kind of fun. So, outdated science. We have a whole bunch of these. We have a very old type security camera. That is apparently the only security camera in, the city. It was weird. So we have punch card tickets to go on a spaceship, which I thought was hilarious. It's like, oh, we're going to space, but you have to use a punch card. Like an old metro ticket. There's paper files and records, of course, and there's 1,000 credit notes, which is paper money. One of the main plot points is that he robs a bank for paper money in the future. I'm like, okay. I guess that makes sense, but I would think that in the future, people wouldn't be really even using physical money anymore, but whatever. So a spaceship blows up to space soldiers. We don't have any of these things. A generation ship is mentioned, but it's not a feature of the story at all. The CMC only produced 6. One was built for the self-sustaining colony attempt at Second Galaxy. One was built for self-sustaining colony attempt. One was built for a self-sustaining colony attempt at a second galaxy. For all we know, she's still on the way. That's all we get about a generation ship. I don't know if that counts. I would say no, because it's not really a focus of the book. Also, there's a lot of spelling mistakes in this version and tons of comma splices. I was like, oh my god, this is driving me nuts. Robots. So robots are mentioned in a very minor way. There's a cop robot at the start, and then there's one later on. Very nice gadgets too, these corpse robots. It looked and acted like a moron M3 all the time. It was anything but. The brain was as good as any other robot brain I have known, plus the fact that the chunky body was crammed with devices and machines of varying use. It chugged slowly around the room, moving my bags and laying out my kit. It's kind of funny, kind of brings it along with him for like 2 minutes, then it disappears. New worlds, yes, but they aren't very interesting. I could read about them, but I'm not going to. There's nothing really of value about either of these. One has a kind of interesting social structure, but nothing like over the top. Yeah. Cyberpunk, no. Sexism. Okay, so I know these old books are going to have sexism in them. Obviously, it's why it's on the bingo chart. It's so common. Male-centric language, I don't even count in this because it's a product of its time. Unlike when modern sci-fi uses it, and then it's a pet peeve of mine. But is there anything else aside from that in this book? I'm glad you asked, because yes, there is. Now, before people just start sounding off in the comments, getting their boxers in a twist, there are tons of books and movies I love that have dated content that is problematic. We are allowed to be critical of media that we love. That's how we progress as a society. That's how we, make things more equitable for everybody. That doesn't mean old stuff doesn't have value and you can't enjoy it. Likewise, I look at this stuff to see why it's included. Why would a person write this awful thing? How is it not edited out? And why would a publisher publish it? I find that fascinating from like a new historicist perspective. So this book has one female character in it. Granted, she's actually a great character. She's underestimated because she's a woman. Jim assumes the mastermind at the start is the dude, and she, the receptionist, is just his assistant. He calls her highly intelligent quite a bit. He gets himself shot because he doesn't assume that she will try and kill him. She defends herself from an attacker with no help from him, and she's a strong female character in that she has agency and her decisions drive a lot of the plot. So I honestly can't really complain about Angelina as a character. Clearly the world is the problem, and I also think it's possible Harrison was critiquing that mindset at times. So actually I really liked Angelina. I thought she was great. It's too bad there's no other women for her to talk to, but I mean, that's the time. There are some absolutely wild things about her, though, that I found quite funny. So, at one point, he calls her the only intelligent woman I've ever come across. What? That's absolutely ridiculous. This is also an issue because it reinforces the idea, at least an idea that, given when this was written, it was quite prevalent at the time, that, intelligence was rare for women to have. That it's a rare woman indeed, that is smart. And so I was just like, oh my god, what are you talking about? Maybe he just doesn't know any women at all. I mean, that's possible. It seems like all he does is hang out with robots and the all-male cops. There's also another wild comment. This one I'm going to read to you because it's absolutely wild. So he finds this picture of a girl, and clearly it's Angelina in the past. And of course, Angelina, is beautiful. The girl in the picture is not conventionally attractive. With this realization, so many other things became clear. Many times when looking at her, I had wondered why that deadly mind should be housed in such an attractive package. The answer was clearly that I wasn't looking at the original package that had shaped her mind. To be a man and to be ugly is bad enough. What must it feel like to be a woman? How do you live when mirrors are your enemies and people turn away rather than look at you? Sorry, it's so bad. How do you bear life when at the same time you are blessed or cursed with a keen and intelligent mind that sees and is aware of everything, makes the inescapable conclusions and misses not the slightest hint of repulsion? Some girls might commit suicide, but not Angelina. Anyway, so then he explains how she spends all this money and she becomes a criminal mastermind, and it warps her because she's spending all her money trying to be beautiful. Anyway, so I think this arc is trying to point out the pressure that is on women to be beautiful, and that is what made Angelina the way she is. I like the fact that he's perhaps trying to show that people being dicks is what caused her to become so callous and so uncaring about human life. That, I think, is a good argument. But I am also kind of torn by the fact that, of course, a woman couldn't possibly be motivated by anything but her looks, right? So, it is an interesting argument. There's another line I want to talk about that was kind of funny. Women, they insist on mixing everything up together. Perhaps they operate better that way. But it is very hard on those of us who find that keeping emotion and logic separate produces sounder thinking. I had to make her understand the seriousness of this situation. So, I think this is actually more of a tongue-in-cheek joke. he is the one who is unable to divorce his feelings from logic the entire book. He spends 3/4 of the book trying to track her down because he can't stop thinking about her. So I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, in terms of the book in a whole, I'm not going to say there is blatant sexism because I think that it's a mix of time period stereotype and subtle critiques of bioessentialism, but I do wish we'd gotten a bit more with Angelina and actually seen them interact to build up the romance angle rather than this kind of stalkerish angle that Jim takes. I don't know, it's kind of weird. There's also this thing that has nothing to do with sexism, but there is a hilarious part where he takes some kind of psychedelic drug to help him understand Angelina's like point of view. The thing is, when he takes this drug, he's met her all of twice, very briefly, yet somehow he thinks taking these drugs and thinking about her will allow him to understand her. First of all, drugs don't do that, and second of all, what? That part was so funny. And then he goes and like breaks some guy's arm, and I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, moving on. There is no Forerunner technology, no gay representation, and no portals. The microfiche does make an appearance in the film copies of all the local newspapers. Film mean microfilm, of course. And I was like, yay! The male MC is kind of a dick. No, he's cool. I like Jim. Racial equality? No, there's none of that. Future weapons. Okay, so there's a 72 caliber recoilless handgun. How? How does that make any sense? I don't know. It doesn't explain it. There's also anesthetic bombs. I guess you drop it on them and they just pass out. This is not a weapon, but I found it quite hilarious. Okay. Inskip yawned and poured himself a glass of water from the dispenser unit above the bed. Why do you need a dispenser unit of water above your bed? It just seems like an unnecessary tech thing. It seems like something that in the 60s they'd be like, yeah, convenience. Everyone's going to have water dispensers by their beds. It's like, really? Would we? I don't know. There's no post-apocalypticness, no assassins, no galactic war. Tech similar to today? Nope. There are no cell phones, no laptops, no solar panels, no electric cars, etc. It's very much in the 60s. And the Bechdel test, no. Aside from Angelina, I keep calling her Angelica. Aside from Angelina, there is one woman, and she's a queen. She says 1 to 2 useless sentences, and that's it. So women do not talk to each other in this book. There's also no quick bonus. So yeah, I liked this book. It was fun. Let me know in the comments if you've read this. Let me know if you've read the entire series, because there's like 6 or 7 of them. So yeah.